of a truck driver they'd employed. He was killed 2 years ago by U.S. soldiers who allegedly mistook him for an insurgent at a checkpoint near Baghdad. The lawsuit accuses Halliburton and KBR of negligence. As the allegations against Halliburton and its former subsidiary, KBR, Kellogg Brown Root, continue to grow, we turn to the award-winning investigative journalist Pratap Chatterjee, who's traced their record in Iraq for years. His latest book releases today. It's called Halliburton's Army: How a Well-Connected Texas Oil Company Revolutionized the Way America Makes War. Pratap Chatterjee joins us now in our Firehouse studio. Welcome to Democracy Now!
Thank you for having me on, Amy.
It's good to have you with us. As the U.S. government says that the troops will draw down over the next year, year and a half in Iraq, what's happening with Halliburton and, as you call it, Halliburton's Army?
Well, the U.S. military is completely dependent on Halliburton, despite all the news that you read of, soldiers, being electrocuted, drivers being shot. The company continues to get contracts, and it's because half the people in Iraq are contractors, and a large number of them are KBR employees. They're South Asian workers, they're Indians, Pakistanis, they're Southeast Asian, Filipinos. They are Halliburton's Army, and they make this military tick. They make this army, allow this army to march forward on its stomach, is because they feed that stomach. So you had Peter Singer on last week talking about the jobs that are dirty, dull, or dangerous, and now they use robots to kill from the sky. Well, they still need to launch those robots, those drones, and they need to have people in place to feed them, and that's what the Indians.
Let's go to P.W. Singer for a minute. We'll play a clip of our interview. He wrote the book Wired for War about the robotics revolution in this country.
Now, the problem is what are the implications of that for our democracy? So, for example, if you are sending less and less Americans into harm's way, does it make you more cavalier about the use of force? And one of the people that was fascinatingly interviewed was a former Assistant Secretary of Defense for Ronald Reagan, who actually had this to say about these systems. He worried that they would create more marketization of war. As he put it, we might have more shock and awe talk to defray discussion of the true costs of war. My grandfather served in the Pacific Fleet in World War II. When he went to war, he went to a place where danger took place, and the family didn't know if he was ever coming back. And that's very different than the experience of, for example, a Predator drone pilot that I met with for it, who described that basically his experience of fighting in the Iraq War was getting in his Toyota Corolla, driving to work. He's doing this in Nevada. Driving into work for 12 hours, he puts missiles on targets, then gets back in the Toyota, commutes back home, and within 20 minutes, he's talking to his son at the dinner table.
That's P.W. Singer, Wired for War. Pratap Chatterjee?
Well, my great-uncle actually served in Iraq under the British, and his job was to accompany the British troops. He was a doctor. Today, Indians are still serving in the war, and there's a French film that came out last year called Days of Glory, where they showed that half of Charles de Gaulle's army was actually North African soldiers. So war has always used, people from other countries to support and do the dirty, dull, and dangerous work. Today, some of that, the most dangerous work is done by robots, and the dirty and dull stuff that Peter Singer talks about is done by South Asians, Southeast Asians, and they comprise, Halliburton's Army. So companies like KBR, a former Kellogg Brown Root, former subsidiary of Halliburton, are now able to make money by providing. My book opens with Donald Rumsfeld saying, why should we, Americans, be doing these things like cleaning toilets? We can outsource that. We need our soldiers to be able to do, the important things in war. And really, this is only possible because with a volunteer army as opposed to a draft army, you can recruit people from other countries. I talked to drivers, that Fijian truck drivers. I think you might even have an interview that I did with this Fijian truck driver who, ironically, Peter Singer's grandfather was a soldier in the South Pacific. Now you have truck drivers being flown from Fiji, and people being flown from Sri Lanka to come to fight in somebody else's war, the American war, and their job, for $300 a month, is to make sure that American troops can fight in Iraq.
I want to go to that clip that you describe. You can set it up for us, the clip of the Fijian driver.
The driver's name is Titoko Savuati, and he's from Fiji, from Totoyaloya, and he basically was lured to Iraq with promise of a $3,000 salary. Once he actually got there, he discovered he's going to be paid 50 KD a trip, which is
KD
about KD is a Kuwaiti dinar, so that's about $170.
Let's go to the clip.
They never give us any insurance. Most of our friends were shooting. Some was very badly shoot, accident, but company never pay him anything, no single money. Like myself, I was fall down. My truck was tumble, fall down. Yeah. So now see my leg. I'm not going good now. I complain, but company never give me any money. Most of our trip to Iraq, we only pay by 50 KDs allowance for trip. That's all. Yeah. From 175 and one trip, they pay us 50 KD only for across the border.
There and back.
Yeah, go come back. Yeah. Are you think that 50 KD is fit for the drivers to go to Iraq, come back? I was asking if anything happened to my life. I'm shooting from the right people. Maybe I die. Is that 50 KD can send to my family to make my family survive by that 50 KD?
Pratap Chatterjee.
I mean, this is $180 he's talking about. Now, actually, it's $170 because of the exchange rates that he's getting paid. And the irony of Titoko, one day he dropped me off and he said, hey, listen, can I borrow 1 KD? That was $3.50 so I can go get some lunch. Here's this man driving, twice. He's driven 100 trips into Iraq, each time being paid, $180 for this company, Agility. It's a subcontractor to KBR. And at the end of the day, he's bringing food. He's bringing ice cream and bagels and turkey and, to American soldiers. But his life, when he gets injured, nobody pays him, If he dies, who's going to take care of his family? But that is Halliburton's Army. It is an army of cheap labor, working for, big contractors in Houston that keeps the U.S. Army. The U.S. Army will not shut this operation down. Obama is not going to kick these guys out because how does he ship back the equipment from Iraq to the United States? He's going to have to use these contractors. Everything went in with the contractors. It's like shutting down a nuclear power station. Who knows the system best? To shut down a nuclear power station, you go back to the Bechtels who built it to shut it down. Same thing here. When Obama, if he moves soldiers out of that theater, he's either going to use more contractors or he's going to use those contractors to bring it back. So they've made $25 billion in contracts so far. They're going to make another $10 billion at least.
The title of your book is Halliburton's Army. The subtitle, How a Well-Connected Texas Oil Company Revolutionized the Way America Makes War. Very quickly, the history. How did this happen?
Well, this actually goes back many years. Most people think, Halliburton was brought in by Dick Cheney. Not true at all. Kellogg Brown and Root, or Brown and Root at the time, was building warships during the Second World War. In Vietnam, they built almost all the bases there. You can go to Cam Ranh Bay in Southeast Asia. And I talk about Donald Rumsfeld actually arriving in 1966. He visits the bases, and then he comes back to the U.S. Congress, and he speaks in the House of the House of Representatives, and he says, this company, they don't have receipts, they are wasting money, and they're paying off the president.
They're paying
off the president.
Lyndon
in this case, Lyndon B. Johnson. So fast forward 37 years,